am. Nobody can be happier than me. This has been a trial.
Finish that book. One.
Woo, yes, praise the Lord. Hallelujah.
Did you see my church dance?
I did. I was gonna send that one, but I said, oh, I didn't know. I didn't want to offend anybody.
Oh no, it
But
won't offend me. I'm crazy like that.
Yes, sir. Thank you all.
All right, who just came in?
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Zakia on.
Sister Zakia. This one is a result of what you asked for. I hope it satisfies.
Okay, yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. I can't wait. Going back.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Sarah.
Wa alaikum salam, family. How is everyone today?
Fine and blessed.
Fine. Praise be Allah.
And Sister Patricia. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Patricia.
Walaikum salam.
How are you?
I'm kind of doing well. Had a little incident at the gym, so
I hope you didn't have to take someone down, did you?
no. Yeah, I took myself down. So I'm kind of propping up my leg a little bit with some ice.
Boy. Okay.
Yes, sir. But I'm here.
Praise be to Allah.
Thank you.
Sister Shara, I see your hand is up.
Yes, sir. All praises due to Allah. But I just wanted to say something, and I was given a hallelujah all weekend.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to, well, I'm in my 70s, but I started studying Scientology when the nation broke up. And I'm thankful to Allah for you. And I wanted to share with everyone, when I first went into Scientology, you know, I was really irate. I was a little militant because I said they had stole all our information. But still, it wasn't easy for me to understand. I would read things over, but eventually I understood. And I was thanking Allah for Brother Lukeman because this is my opinion. It's our information and he's putting into our language. And I became to understand L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard was never supposed to come after us. He had to put it in the language of the people that we made, the Brown Germ. So I just wanted to share that I'm so thankful in these later years to see, after all the studying, the Muslims coming in like you, brother, and our brother we lost, putting it in our language where it can be easily understood. So that's all I wanted to say to family. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Sister Cheryl. Thank you very much. All praise is due to Allah. I just want to bring this tech back home in the language that we understand. And I firmly believe that after today, not as a result of how wise Brother Lukeman is, because this presentation took on a life of its own. How I had planned to do it and what it evolved into, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. This has been a great study, and you all have Sister Zakia to thank for this one, because she had suggested, I didn't connect it with the chakras just yet. That might be a part 2, but we will go into closing the gap tonight. And I believe by Allah's grace, everyone will get something from this Zoom presentation. Let's see, before we get started, Sister Peggy. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Peggy.
Walaikum salam, Brother Lukeman, and assalamu alaikum, family.
I see you're no longer on the Starship Enterprise.
Oh, yeah. Had to land.
Sister Deborah, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, family.
All right, family. Let's jump into it. How does the family like the new picture I found online?
I wanted to talk about
Yes,
that.
sir.
Can you understand the symbolism?
Well, I see it as the Dianetics fueling the supreme wisdom or our supreme technology.
Okay, because that volcano was a symbol they used for Dianetics back in
Right.
the 80s and still today.
That's
And
it.
I just typed in UFO and volcanoes. Excuse me, this is one of the pictures that came up. I said, this is too good to turn up. So it's the union of the two sciences.
Mhm.
So what we're gonna do is closing the gap in Dianetic tech tonight. If this doesn't go well, you can blame Sisters IKEA. It was her idea. Let me start off with a small little clip of the minister. I'm gonna have 3 clips of the minister tonight. This will be the first one.
Wait. Look, I accomplished something this weekend, we say. What do you want? Praise. You can't handle it. The moment we accept praise for what God has done, we start using the power and effect of what was done. Listen, human beings can't handle praise. And what God is going to do for us with the supreme wisdom and the supreme technology.
Ooh.
It's going to raise us from ignominy to greatness.
Okay, that's a little start with the minister, speaking about the supreme wisdom and the supreme technology. And then we're gonna lay the base, part of the base also with an article from Mother Dianetic Muhammad. And she makes a key statement. And I wanna preface this by making this statement first. Let me come off the screen first. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan made the comment about the scientists speaking in formulae, correct?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
the one thing to understand is that a formulae is something that's not limited with respect to time. So when we look at the words of Mother Dianetic Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with her, and Sister Ava, we can still look at what they have said in the past. We can apply it to the present and still calculate the future. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
formulae are independent of time. And I say that to say this because there's a key point that I'm going to show you, and something that Mother Dianetic Muhammad said. But then I was blessed to just see something else that was in it. And this is kind of like going to lay the foundation of what we'll do tonight. So she says, the divine teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when studied and applied correctly to the world of science and physics, leads us to the discovery of new physical laws that govern our universe. Now, does that make sense?
Mhm. Yes, sir.
If Dianetics is the science of the mind and is rooted in the laws of physics, because we know L. Ron Hubbard was a nuclear physicist, one of the first nuclear physicists in this country. And we know that it's rooted in the laws of physics and mathematics, then we can substitute it into the above statement by using the law of substitution. So how would we do that? we're gonna take the term world of science and physics, put in Dianetics, the science of the mind, and in the place of our universe, we're gonna put in our mind. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay, so
sir.
we're gonna use this like an equation, but we're gonna input something else into the equation because this is a formulae. And we're gonna use the same formulae to gain another output. So if the universe can represent, if the universe can represent the universe of our mind, then what happens when we make the substitution? So when we make the substitution, it looks like this. The divine teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when studied and applied correctly to the science of the mind, leads us to the discovery of new physical laws that govern our thinking. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's beautiful. Yes, sir.
Okay. So now, can we say, can Closing the Gap be a study of the analytical mind of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, and there you see, thank you, Sister Zakia, because she's the one that recommended, she's the one that gave me the assignment.
Praise be to Allah.
Okay.
All praise is due to Allah.
Go ahead, Brother Ahmad.
Yes, sir. That bottom statement is quite perfect, especially when we look at the fact that Brother Jabril calls it the inner views, as in
That's where I got it from. I got it from Brother Jabril, brother. I'm not gonna take it like I figured that out. It was
on, brother.
Jabril's words, the inner views, I think, of the heart and mind.
Yes, sir. Something to that effect.
And by looking at that, I said, so he's talking about the analytical mind of the minister. All right. So now what is processing? Because Closing the Gap be a processing manual?
Absolutely.
So here's our learning objectives. The learning objectives are, what is the significance of closing the gap with respect to Dianetics, the science of the mind? What is processing? Can Closing the Gap be a processing manual? What are gaps and how are they formed? How could this be related to our reactive mind and engrams? So we're going to relate Closing the Gap, and we're going to marry that with the tech of Dianetics. So what is processing? Dianetic Technical Dictionary says, called auditing, by which the auditor, the practitioner, listens and commands. The auditor and the pre-clear, the patient, are together out of doors or in a quiet place where they will not be disturbed or where they are not being subjected to interrupting influences. The purpose of the auditor is to give the pre-clear certain and exact commands which the pre-clear can follow and perform. Now, we're talking about closing the gap. Our Islam, closing the gap, who is the listener that's given the commands?
Allah. Well, the minister.
And the minister and Allah. Okay. What are the interrupting influences?
Life.
These are the things that just go on in our life that take us off the straight path, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And who is the auditor? We could say the auditor is the minister, but the minister represents an auditor who represents an auditor, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then it says that the purpose of the auditor is to increase the ability of the pre-clear. The auditor's code is the governing set of rules for the general activity of auditing. Now, why did the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan give us this tool? It was to increase our spiritual and mental abilities, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Could Closing the Gap be our auditor's code?
Yes, sir.
Heavy.
Then it says that the principle of making an individual look at his own existence and improve his ability to confront what he is and where he is. Go ahead, Brother Ahmad.
Oh, that was it. That last point just struck
Okay.
me. I said heavy.
Okay. So we're looking at look at his own existence and prove his ability to confront. Well, isn't that the same as self-examination, self-analysis, and self-correction?
Yes, sir. Okay, it could be.
It could be.
Only reason I say that is because what the auditor can do that we may not be prone to do for ourselves is stay in an unemotional place and complete the process.
No, and I agree. I agree with that. That's fine. But what I'm saying is through self-examination, self-analysis, and self-correction, we are made to look at our own existence and improve our ability to confront on a certain level.
Yes.
There's certain things we can't confront because we need that auditor to assist in dealing with our reactive mind, correct?
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes, sir.
so we're on the same page.
Yes, sir. Got you.
A series of methods arranged on an increasingly deep scale of bringing the pre-clear to confront the no-confront sources of his aberrations and leading them to a simple, powerful, effective being. Can these methods be found in Closing the Gap as well?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay. Can they be found in self-improvement study guides?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Can they be found in Supreme Wisdom? When I say Supreme Wisdom, I'm talking about How Did You Live, Book 1 and 2, Fall of America, 7 Speeches. Our Savior Has
Problem 13. Yes, sir.
The Problem Book, Supreme Wisdom, that is everything. So what is processing? Processing is not getting data out of the pre-clear. It is not assembling his life for him as a complete consecutive play. It is increasing his self-determinism and his right to reason. So that's what processing is. And this one, thank you to Brother Robin, because I remember he mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, looking at the gradient scale. And Brother Robin, are you on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if I get this wrong, brother, just kind of slide in and correct it for me. But you had said that when we look at question number 1 of the student enrollment, the maker is the one that brings something into being. And then we added to that saying that that could be postulate. It could be the beginning of a cycle of action, or in our language, it's kun fayakun. That's the maker. Next up on the gradient is the owner, because once you make something, you have to have mastery over it, meaning you have to have control or be cause. We make something, we make a postulate, or we start a cycle of action, and then we gain mastery over that. And then we become the cream of the planet Earth. And it just so happens that the word cream in Arabic, safwa, means to be clear. And
Yes, sir.
then after we go this gradient scale of maker, owner, the cream of the planet Earth, then we become God of the universe, which means what? Cause over one's environment or our own universe. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So did I hit right, Brother Robin?
Yes, sir, you did, brother. I thank you for that. I just wanted to add one thing. We always say this within the nation. The cream rises to the top.
Yes, sir.
Come on, man.
So do prime believers rise up the tone scale.
like crime numbers?
Yes, sir, brother. So do we rise up the tone scale just like cream rises to the top.
Go ahead,
it's a picture, and it just gives us a picture, which shows us the tone scale on official paper.
All right, brother. Official paper. Processing is a procedure by which an individual recovers his self-determinism. No procedure which does not bring about increased self-determinism is processing. It has to be case gain. So now, does Closing the Gap satisfy all the elements of processing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we good so far, Sister Zakia?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. We'll keep it moving. So if we study and learn the tools of Dianetics, how much untapped data could we extract from these processing manuals, meaning the books of the Nation of Islam? Because we want the tools of Dianetics. And there's more data that we have not even tapped into from the books that we already have.
Oh, it's endless.
Yes,
Countless.
sir.
Yes, ma'am. So let's deal with some gaps now.
Mhm.
A gap is a break in a barrier, such as a wall, a hedge, or a line of military defense. It's an assailable position. So assailable just simply means to oppose, challenge, or criticize harshly and forcefully. So when the minister departs, we can't have any gaps because that's when the enemy is going to attack. And if they can cause us to doubt the minister, doubt his position, or doubt our wisdom, we know doubt is the mother of what?
Hypocrisy.
Doubt is the
Exactly.
mother of hypocrisy. It's an incomplete or deficient area.
Mhm.
It's synonymous with the word disparity. And it means a break, a breach, a discontinuity, a gulf, a hole, a rift, a separation, or a void. Those are the gaps. What causes the gap? In the opening letter of Closing the Gap, it says, it is misunderstanding, distrust, and suspicion that have made the gap. It is understanding and the purification of the heart through trials that allow the mind and heart to read the words of this book and close the gap between us and Allah, God, and by so doing, close the gap between us and his servant and close the gap between one another. Now, misunderstanding is equivalent to the held down 7, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And distrust and suspicion is a result of the reactive mind, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes,
So
sir.
would it be safe to say that if a gap has grown between us and the minister, then that's proof that our mind is still aberrated?
Yes, sir.
Then would it also imply that we need to start ourselves on the process of going clear to close that gap?
Yes, sir.
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay. Gaps and breaks. Could our failure to follow the instructions of any kind, and I put in of any kind because I want us to go beyond just whether we have accepted the tech or not, but anything, because all of us are wrestling with something, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Could our failure to follow instructions when we do it willfully be considered an ARC break?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it's this the gap. So some of us are willfully disobedient and some of us are just struggling because why? We're just not clear yet.
Mm-hmm.
A sudden drop or cutting of one's affinity, reality, or communication with someone or something. Upsets with people or things come about because of a lessening or sundering of affinity, reality, or communication or understanding. Is that what has caused the gaps between us and the, when I say us, I'm just speaking generally, but is that what causes the gaps between us and the minister?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So when you go to page 27 of Closing the Gap, it says, and this is given the reason why, but as he continues to grow and evolve, change and mature, perhaps they will not see him in the same way in the next phase of his development as they saw him in the stage when they first came to help him.
Yes, sir.
Why? Because he sufficed a particular need that was very personal, individual for them. When that need is met, they claim him as their leader. As he evolves more and more, if they do not grow with him, a gap develops. Why? Because now there's an ARC break. Some of us, the minister, satisfied our growth and development up to a certain point, but then we couldn't go any further. So there's a gap there, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it's called an ARC break instead of an upset, because if one discovers which of the 3 points of understanding have been cut, one can bring about a rapid recovery in the person's state of mind. It is pronounced by its letters ARC break. So when we question a pre-clear, is it an affinity, is it a reality, or is it a communication break? And when we can pinpoint where the problem is, then we can raise up the other 2 points of the triangle, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay.
Right, simultaneously. Yes, sir.
And 9 times out of 10, it might just be a communication where there's a misunderstood in there somewhere. Something
Yes.
that was said that we didn't understand what was said, or we may not understand the context in which it was said.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then we make an assumption.
Mm-hmm.
So when an ARC break is permitted to continue over too long a period of time and remains in restimulation, a person goes into a sad effect, which is to say they become sad and mournful, usually without knowing what is causing it. Why have some of us left the mosque? Because we've been in the ARC break over a prolonged time, either with the minister or with one another, or with a laborer, or with a captain, or with a secretary. And it might just be based on a misunderstood.
Yes, sir.
And
I have a question. I'm sorry,
Go
let me
ahead.
put my hand on.
Mhm.
Okay, what do you do when you find, like in a session? Some of my sessions have been actually having with some people for, what is this, 23? Let's say I've been having a session with them for 10 years. What do you do when you find what you just talked about? This is with everyone. So let's say that this person has this problem with everyone. How do you go about, because I've been, around saying, well, if something keeps coming up, have you considered that this might be you, instead of everything else that is being associated with? So when you meet that, because it sounds like different data, like, okay, I get a call, I go into a session, the data sounds different, but as soon as I get down into the data, it's like it's coming from the same lake. You understand what I mean?
Mhm.
Though it's a lot of streams, it's like veins going to the same source. So how do we get through that?
Well, if off the top of my head, one individual that finds problems, and it seems as though they're the lowest common denominator, then you find the trouble source.
And maybe because the data seems to be, sometimes it's very extraordinary given, I noticed the time of year too. Given the time of year, the data seems extreme. You know what I mean by extraordinary? Is it could be let's see, an event that happened, and that's the takeaway from the event. So of course the beginning focus would be the event, to only get down to seeing that this is associated with a long list of other entities and people. So,
oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just trying to see, because I'm noticing it's like a chain of things. I don't know if it's because I've been dealing with it, especially with a family member, to see if it's a shared engram, maybe. I couldn't even call that a shared engram. I know it's a part of learned behavior, and it's a defensive mechanism also. But it's not, the case is not moving, is what I'm saying. It's not moving at all.
Okay. Brother Robin, you have some data on that one?
Yes, if I may. And thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I pray everybody is well. And thank you. Yeah, praise be to Allah. Thank you, Brother Rahman. You a scientist on another level, black man. That's all I can say. And sister, thank you for holding that. But I just want us to be mindful too. It was an excellent way you explained that without exposing the anonymity of the PC. I always want to keep that in mind. It's one thing that we have to remember. that there's a piece of technology that goes right along with auditing, and that's called ethics.
Mm-hmm.
You know how we say in the nation, the restricted law is our success?
Yes, sir.
All right. See, the earth belongs to the righteous, and this tech is designed to make the righteous more righteous, or the able more able. If your ethics is out, the tech can't go in.
Go ahead, brother.
You ever heard that before?
Yes, sir.
All right. So what that means is, from my understanding, and we kind of dealt with that at Flag this past weekend, whenever you find criticism, wherever you find blame, you find an overt or a sin that you've committed against that person, place, or thing. Whether it can be something as big as stealing money, or something as small as, you know, doing something as small as taking your bill money, or a person give you money to go to the store to get them a soda, and you buy some candy and you don't tell them. That may seem small, but that's an out ethic action. And what happens is that'll cause a person to blame. They blame other people. Well, when you're when you're auditing, and your auditing has stops, and don't let me speak for no class 4s or meter auditors, but I know this from being a Dianetics auditor, is that whenever you have stops on the case, your CS or the case supervisor will take the case, look at the case, and usually when there are stops, if you can't find a technical error in the auditor, they send you to ethics. And in somewhere, in some place, way, shape, or form, you did something that you didn't take responsibility for. So the thing that we have to remember, particularly as believers, is that restricted law is our success. Ethics is our success. Your righteous conduct would determine whether or not this tech will even work for you. It won't work for hypocrites.
Can't put new wine in an old wineskin.
Right. And you cannot hide. You might try, but you cannot hide. You got to get to root. But whenever you come to a situation where a person is blaming or criticizing, that's an ethics situation, where somewhere they've committed a ethics violation against that which they criticize. That's every situation. So, and I'll just say this last part. We are gods. We take responsibility. And I'm just learning exactly what responsibility is. Sometimes we have to take responsibility for other people, most times. Even if sometimes, and I give you an example, L. Ron Hubbard talks about this in Advanced Procedures and Axiom. He said, if I'm not mistaken, it's Advanced Procedure and Axiom. He says, if you're in an argument with someone, they wants to argue, sometimes you have to admit you're wrong, even if you're not, just so that reactive mind can go down, so you can then begin to communicate back with that being. Sometimes you got to take that's called taking full responsibility. My last point is this. I pray that makes sense. When we were in Flag this past week, they had an OT 8, OT 7, OT 8. Caucasian woman who's been in Scientology. She said, I've been in this for 35 years. Well, that thing is so deep. It's connecting right with lesson number 1, question number 9. You know, why must Muhammad make the devil study from 35 to 50? But she said something very powerful. She said, when you get to a certain level of understanding responsibility, and I guess on the bridge, and she said her son was having problems. He couldn't make a decision. And she talked to him, but he didn't get it. So what did she do? She didn't go chasing him and confront him and why you don't make a decision. She said, like Sister Naira always tell me, she said, brother, we handle it in session. So I'm gonna go in session. I'm gonna find out if I had any overts or anything in raising that boy. I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna run the incident in session, and me running the incident dealing with my child will handle his case too. The lady said after she ran in the session, she felt good about it. She got home, opened the door. Her son say, Mom, I made a decision on what I want to do.
Wow.
So she took responsibility for her environment and her son in session. When you take it to that, and I don't want to go off too far, but when you take it to that point, think about it. When you accept responsibility for things outside of you, it's like everything that happens to you in your universe, you're a cause of it. Even other how other people handle you. When you, but anyway, we'll get into that later, but you're a real God, but it's ethics. Ethics. It's that we need ethics tech along with the technology of Dianetics and Scientology. I pray that it made sense.
I would like just 2 points that you covered. One, to match it with something that's in Closing the Gap, because the minister covers some of what you just said.
I'm doing a lot.
About taking responsibility. And the only difference is the minister hears what people accuse him of. And he does not accept it if he didn't do it. He hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think affording the opportunity is something that's very foreign to us. I'm talking about us as people, Black people. We don't, consider even talking out anything. It's either fight or flight.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, I thank you for your comment. And he also said, when he was reintroducing the restrictive law, he said that some of this is mannerisms, it's manners, it's etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
It's how we maneuver our way through life so we can attract what we desire to ourselves. So just being witness to what you said. Thank you, sir.
I'm doing a lot. Hey, may I add this one other point?
Yes,
Brother
sir.
Lukman? When you talked about misunderstanding and us in the mosque and why folks leave, I remember 2 things. One is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that the mosque is a training or is a dojo. It's a dojo. It's where it's an agitator. It's where you come and meet problems. He said we're practicing on each other for when we come into power on how we're going to have to deal with our people out there, or when we're going to have to deal with our people out there then. And it's all about us meeting and overcoming obstacles. However, dealing with the misunderstanding, remember, I don't know how many of you ever been on F time. Like, Brother Robin had a lot of F's on his report card. But coming back, went down a lot, but I've been on F once or twice. But on your return, you signed what's called a Form 4, where it stated that somewhere along the line, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad permitted you back because there was a gross misunderstanding. So it just bears witness to what you were just saying, brother, about the understanding. It's all in our teaching. Mm-hmm. So I pray that makes sense. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam. Go ahead, Sister Tina.
Yes, I just wanted to ask a question. When Brother Robin was speaking on, what he was speaking on, and he mentioned taking responsibility, and it made me, when he said, someone said they did something when they actually didn't do it, but in order to communicate with the person, they said they did it. I remember that made me think.
Oh, go ahead, sis. I got you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
that made me think of when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, was accusing the minister of
Go
stealing
ahead.
Mother Dianeti's play, and the minister kept
Perfect
saying
example.
he didn't do it, but then he just conceded and said, well, I believe he said it like this, if you say I did it, then I did it. And
yes,
I understand that. And I also understand the way Sister Angela put it, as far as someone accusing you. In the way I see it is, in order not to have a misunderstood, you don't admit to doing something you didn't do. So I want to know the difference, how to be able to know the difference in conceding to it and not conceding to it.
I would say atonement first and foremost. I mean, the conversation has to be had. And what you shared with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was for, oh my God, when you talk about a scientist, let's dig into this a little bit. Now, this is what I love. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, while he was trying the minister's heart, because that's what it was. We just talked about this yesterday, right, Brother Lukman? This is what we're talking about. We take flight with these lessons depending on the heart of us, right? So he's trying the heart and seeing how the minister would react to being accused of something he knew the minister didn't do. And then he showed the minister, was everyone around him while he was accusing him, the truth of the people that was around him. And they got to see the beauty of the minister's heart, because I can't say that I would have been brought to tears. And
breaking up,
Sister Angela. We lost you, Sister Angela. Oh, she just dropped.
Oh my goodness. And that was good.
She'll get back on. She'll get back on. We'll keep it moving.
Was brought to tears. So, Brother Robert, do you have anything to say to that?
Yeah, I would say this, if I understand you correctly. You're saying what would cause one to accept that responsibility in a case where they were accused of something? Okay.
Right. To know like the minister was being tested, and him divine like he is. And he was talking to his superior.
That's right.
So I can understand him conceding. He was talking to his divine superior. So that's part of our training in the proper way of handling people, from my understanding of it. So I understand the divinity of the minister by humbling himself, and he was being tested and he didn't even know it, And on the other hand, just another believer or another person accusing me of something and I didn't do it, I can't see myself saying I did it. So the difference, knowing should I say I did it in order to just communicate with the person, to continue communicating with the person? As an auditor, you're saying I should do it?
Well, here's what I will say. Two things. And I thank you for posing that question. And I pray that Allah blesses me with the awareness to paint the picture clear. One is we have to remember. It depends. See, we just talked about the heart, and we talked about responsibility. See, we have to take responsibility for the being, and we have to remember who the enemy is. The enemy is not white skin. The enemy is pain that is lodged inside, is poison. Pain lodged inside of a person that causes them hurt, and it seeks to cause hurt to anyone. It doesn't matter who it is, in times when that person is unconscious. So it's like this. It's like the engram doesn't think, it only reacts. It's like fighting fire with fire. We're taught that. Do you fight fire with fire? If a building was on fire and you add fire to it, and Brother Luke might know that, there may be a way to fight fire with fire, Brother Luke. I don't know that one yet. But I'm saying just the basis of a basic fire, you don't fight fire with fire because it can increase and destroy what you're looking at. If you're trying to save what you're looking at, you fight fire with water. And that's the same way. It's like if we know a person and the function of an engram. I'll give an example. Brother Lukman and I were talking about this today. In the Supreme Wisdom, it asked the question, can you fool a Muslim? Can the devil fool a Muslim? And the answer is what?
Not nowadays.
Not nowadays. Well, look at that in context. If we're looking at, and it's all about the mind, if you're looking at that as a white man fooling you, that's one aspect of it. But that's a very elementary aspect or understanding of it with the physical eye. But when you take devil and look at devil as who it really is, the reactive mind, you don't see the reactive mind coming except you have a specific training and you know what to look for. So when it asks the question, can the devil fool a Muslim? And he says, not nowadays. Nowadays, as Brother Lukman broke down, to me, when you define nowadays, it means no, not in present time. You can't fool a Muslim. But could he fool us in the past? Yes. Why? Because we didn't have the technology to see him. That's how the deportation of the moon took place. That's how Shabazz and them got ran into the jungle. That's how we had all our issues. That's why we fell away on the first phase. Because the devil was fooling the hell out of Muslims because we couldn't see him. So now, since we come into present time, nowadays, after we know who is, now we are looking at the salvation of the being. It's like arguing with a dog. Get out of my yard. Get out of my yard. And the dog turn around. Woof, woof, woof. And you stand there arguing. Get out of my yard. Woof, woof, woof. He don't understand what you're saying. But you stand there arguing with the dog. You cussing the dog out. Is the dog a fool or are you a fool? You know what I'm saying? The dog just, I don't know what the dog is saying. But he don't know what you're saying. Especially if he's not moving. So, so it's like, do you argue with an engram? Or do you murder the engram? If you can't murder the engram, what must we do to cause the being to salvage the person and salvage the relationship. You do what you got to do. You take responsibility. Oh, don't worry. I know he cussing me out. Okay, that ain't him. That's a demon circuit. I can't stand you. But you my friend 5 minutes ago. But now I can't stand you, bro, Robin. You ain't this. You ain't, man, no. I understand. You always do this, brother Robin, or your spouse. You always doing this to me, and okay. What do? No, you do this. No, you don't do that. Because I know I ain't arguing with my wife. I'm arguing with her reactive mind. So in order to salvage the relationship, to cause me from saying, I'll go to hell, I'll sleep in the hotel tonight. Bye. You know what I'm saying? Now what does the devil do? Lesson number 1, question number 4. You know what I'm saying? So he started making trouble among the righteous people, telling lies. He accused the righteous people and caused them to fight and kill one another. We talking about the devil. See? So my point is, when you realize that the reactive mind is up and the reactive mind is re-stimulating and someone is dramatizing towards you, how do you handle it? Oh, you said I did it to you? I sincerely apologize. Please forgive me. Not if I harmed you, for harming you or invalidating you or whatever, even though you may not have done that. Because you want to salvage the being. And what happens when you do that? You take responsibility. It's called pan-determinism. You take responsibility for them when they can't take responsibility for themselves. And they blaming you.
So that's the same as looking beyond the fault to see the need.
That's when you become Jesus. That's the point. That's you, Jesus. Now that's the power of Jesus. Now I say, oh, I gotta forgive her or him. They know now what they doing. They just dramatized. Okay, I did it. Forgive me. And then once they calm down, you what? You did it? Yeah, that's right. You did do it. You damn right. Don't be doing me like that. And then watch this. You see him going off. Yeah, okay. See, I told you you've been doing that to me. Then after a while, it's kind of like, see that reactive mind going down. It's kind of like, hey, you want to go get some coffee? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, it does. It does. Thank you so much. I understand. I had misunderstood there for a minute, but I understand.
And I'll say this, when you said, when should we do it? You should always do it, no matter who it is, especially when you're dealing with someone, when you use the term superior. That was my problem in the mosque. And if I may say this, I swear I'm be straight to the point. That was the problem I had in the mosque with the laborers. I had to take responsibility over time. Yes, I was being treated unfairly. And I was right according to the letter of the law. Yeah, you putting me out, you doing this, that, and that. Look, I got the book, the Provisional Constitution. And according to the Constitution, I'm right. But I'm beating them over the head with my rightness. Look at this. Y'all doing me wrong. Look at you look, Blase Skippy. No. And I'm fighting fire with fire. Because it's their reactive mind that's intentionally handling me the way I'm being handled. And I'm attacking them with truth. Now I'm becoming the aggressor instead of being kind and accepting responsibility. It's okay. Let's move forward with proceedings. So let's move forward with my evidence in the proper chain. But I want to fight with my rightness. And in that instant, I became the aggressor. And instead of me taking responsibility for me, I blame them. Because in truth, when I left them, I'm talking in my head, this nigga and that nigga ain't this and this nigga. See, that's overt. Now I'm slack talking and gossiping to myself. I ain't just calling somebody else. It don't just end. Slack talking gossip ain't just talking to another person about it. What you saying in your head that you're not saying out your mouth in person to them? That's slack talk. and gossiping to yourself. And that's over. That's a sin. Straight up. So I call myself doing that and even talking to other folk because I'm disappointed and in pain and I didn't handle them right because I've got to look at it from a standpoint of a God. See, he who has the greater knowledge has the greater responsibility to control the situation. That's where your second triangle comes in Dianetics. After you learn affinity, reality, and communication, then you learn knowledge, responsibility, and control. Once you know better, you can do better. So my point is this. I had problems all throughout the nation, but my last point is that when I learned this tech and learned about responsibility and I learned to be kind, like the Quran said, I got in the same situation about 2 months ago. And I said, to where brother, the reactive mind, brother lieutenant, reactive mind going off. And instead of me arguing, I say, oh, yes, sir, brother. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. I don't want to be a problem to you or anyone here. Please forgive me. And I don't want to be a distraction. And I'll kindly leave. And where it used to be, Bro Robin go off mad and they be smiling. The brother ran behind me. Was like, no, come on in. I'm like, no, bro. I got the desired result. That's my point.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Right, I'm doing a lot. Pardon my long-windedness.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you.
Brother, I'm gonna add something about the fighting fire with fire, because when you deal with structure fires, you fight a structure fire with water. You deal with wildland fires. Now, a wildland fire is a demo kit we can use to actually show exactly what the minister was talking about with the mosque being the dojo. When you have a wildland fire, and Brother Ahmad probably knows about this being down on the West Coast, when there's a large fire coming, wildland firefighters apply a different strategy. They do build what's called a fire line, which means before the large fire gets to them, they purposely burn off the vegetation.
Go ahead.
So by the time this fire gets there, there's nothing left to burn. So when you look at the mosque is a fire line to get rid of all that stuff out your system. So when we deal with the public, we done dealt with all this so much.
That's right.
We've become vaccinated from the average.
That's right.
Go ahead. So you can fight fire with fire. Fire can be used to fight against fire, but it has to be done in a precise, controlled manner under controlled conditions. Otherwise, you'll just produce another fire.
Allahu Akbar. Thank you, sir.
Brother Tukwan, my brother.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. How you doing, bro, Lukman?
Wa alaikum salam.
I just wanted to share something from Closing the Gap that Sister Tina and Brother Robin and yourself brought to mind, talking about fighting fire with fire and returning like for like. In the section of Closing the Gap entitled Characteristics of a Redeemer, the minister says on page 45, consider the quality of being slow to anger. Well, you could return like for like, but if you are a redeemer or if you are following a redeemer, returning like for like would not be sin, but it would injure the process by which the sinner would eventually come to redemption. Since the sinner is by nature of God, and the nature of God in the sinner is thoroughly impacted with evil, we have to get past the layers of evil to contact the nature of God in the human being to effect redemption. He said that Master Father Muhammad in his coming made a demonstration for his servant for 3 years and 4 months of long suffering, of taking abuse to show him the price of redemption. Then on leaving, he tells his servant, take plenty. He wanted him to be long suffering so that all may come to life. So in that same context of what we're talking about, we have to be that redeemer that will do what is necessary to restore the person who we're striving to help, we're striving to redeem. And sometimes that's taking plenty, sometimes that's taking the lower road, because ultimately we see an example of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that he's always doing that. His heart is always forgiving, always returning to mercy. And that's what gives him the great power to resurrect and redeem. So I just wanted to share that.
Praise be to Allah.
That's called stable data.
Yes.
Praise be to Allah.
What page was that?
45 and 46.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
You're closing the gap. Yes.
Go ahead, Sister Angela. Now, before you start, Sister Angela, someone please let me know when it is 7:50. Because I'm gonna end early. We're not staying till 8:30. 7:50. That will allow the brothers and sisters here that want to go to the next Zoom meeting to do that. And plus, I'm ready to go home. I've been here since Saturday morning. I'm only here now to finish this. I'm ready to go home. So let me know when it's 7:50 and we can wrap it up. Go ahead, Sister Angela.
10-4.
You're on mute, Sister Angela.
Oh, yes, sir. Listening to everyone and going to Sister Tina the question that she posed, and it kind of changed. For me, it changed the dynamic of the question. Now, what we discussing now seems to be what the minister gave Brother Wesley. He told him to win the soul, not the argument. And there's a fine line in the difference in the tech in our delivery or what Brother Taquan just read, going through those layers of evil to get to the truth of the matter. I think if we stand on the truth, yet be mindful of our delivery, Sister Tina, I don't think it's something that we should take responsibility for that we did not do. That's just what Sister Angela's understanding from this. I believe how the minister addressed the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when he was being accused in that trial, is a blueprint. Added with the long suffering, maybe taking the coloring of a redeemer as I'm being accused and willing to sit down and atone with whoever is accusing me so we can sit and get to the root of where this came from. I think atonement is the answer to that question. If I'm being accused of something, I think as a sister, if it's a family member, a cousin, or us in the mosque, if that is the misunderstanding that's going on right now, I think atonement is the best answer. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, ma'am.
Praise be to Allah. All right. We'll get back to it. Let's see, gaps and breaks. Dianetic Technical Dictionary says this condition is handled by finding the earliest ARC break on the chain, finding whether it was a break in affinity, reality of communication, or understanding and indicating it to the person, always, of course, in session. So this is right along with everything that we were just talking about, I believe. Now, can we find some ARC breaks in the Holy Quran?
I'm sure. Yes, sir.
Holy Quran, Surah 2, ayat 142 to 143 says, the fools among the people will say, what has turned them from their Qibla which they had? There's an ARC break right there. How's that an ARC break? Because we're automatically accusing an individual of being a fool. We're already making a determination. The response is, say the East and the West belong only to Allah. He guides whom he pleases to the right path. Now, if we can ask ourselves the question, if we can say, is there truth? Is there truth in the tech? Does Dianetics work?
Yes, sir.
If it works, that means it's rooted in mathematics and science, then ultimately it is rooted in Allah's will.
Absolutely.
Whether it comes through L. Ron Hubbard or not. And I don't think I'm the only one who believes this, but my thought is somewhere along the line, he had contacted the Savior. Okay.
Yep.
So the next ayat says, and thus we have made you an exalted nation that you may be the bearers of witness to the people, and that the messenger may be a bearer of witness to you. And we did not make that which thou wouldst have to be the Qibla, but that we might distinguish him who follows the messenger from him who turns back upon his heels. And it was indeed a hard test, except for those whom Allah has guided. Nor is Allah going to make your faith to be fruitless. Allah is compassionate, merciful to the people. I always look at this ayat as describing the minister having us study in the text as being similar to the changing of the Qibla. And then when you read the footnote for these ayats, at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the Muslims prayed towards Jerusalem, and then he had prayed towards Mecca. So he changed the Qibla. The Qibla is a point or direction of focus.
Wow.
I believe, this is just my opinion, that this historical data or his historical event is like a demo kit that represents what the modern day Muhammad did. Because if you're praying towards Jerusalem, and Jerusalem we know it's founded in peace, that's like praying and handling your Islam in a way that's already comfortable.
Right.
But Mecca, changing the Qibla to Mecca that had idols. Why would you want to pray towards a place that was full of idols? Because that was the postulate. That's where we're going to conquer. So it's full of idols now, but it won't be once we conquer it. So when you look at the Dianetics, so how's the Dianetics connected to Mecca? Because the minister wanted us to focus on this Mecca that was full of idols, so that we can postulate removing the idols from this Mecca. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I want to look real quick at the Arabic of the word Qibla, exalted nation, bears a witness, distinguish, turn back upon his heels, and in hard test. And we're going to clear the words in Arabic real quick and then show how it's connected to the text of Dianetics. So the Qibla means to agree. Well, that's ARC, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
To turn one's attention. So we're turning towards Mecca historically in the study of the text. Well, let me go back to the Prophet. When they changed the Qibla, did they stop being Muslim?
No.
Did they become greater Muslims? Their Islam became stronger. But they weren't Jerusalem Muslims and then Mecca Muslims, right? They were just Muslims, correct?
Muslim. Right.
Now look at this. The word Qibla means to be opposite each other. To face each other. What does that sound like?
Auditing.
Yeah.
Sounds like auditing. Two people that are meeting. So you got two people meeting facing opposite or facing each other. That's called, in Arabic, that's called Qibla. So when we go to the org, we're in a state of Qibla. It means to confront. Isn't that what auditing is all about?
Yes, sir.
Confronting. And the word kibble, which is this another word off of the derivative off the root word, means power and ability. So Qibla is connected to facing one another and gaining power and ability. It's a goal sought after and aspired to. Go ahead, Sister Tina.
Oh, wow. That makes me think of when we're in the study circles, we're facing one another and we're exposing our thoughts to one another. So it's the same as auditing to a certain extent. So yeah, sir, I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Oh, you're right in that. That's good. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that. Can the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan be the example of clear amongst us?
Oh, yes.
Okay. It's just a rhetorical question, but I mean, but now here's this. even though individuals, there were some that determined that the minister was making a mistake. Would he know the best route to take to close the gap between ourselves and his example? Wouldn't he know the best road to take?
Yes, sir.
If he already walked it for over 60 years, who's best to know how to get to where he is?
Come on.
So if he gave us the tech to study, then we should at least accept the fact that he would know best because he's already walked that walk, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what does it mean, exalted nation in Arabic? In Arabic, now my Arabic pronunciation might not be correct, so I'm gonna let you just look at the spelling. It's the nation is ummah, and exalted is wasatan. From the root word is wasat. It means source, origin, mother, basis, or foundation. The word exalted means to place in the middle or to mediate. So now, the word wasat also means good offices or the center of the environment. To steer a middle course. So it's a nation of individuals that will be placed as mediators to steer the societies back to straightness, is another way of looking at it. And that's another reason why we have to gain the tech, because the minister said what? You can't lead in the nation unless you become what?
In
Go
order.
ahead, sis. Who had their hand up? Go ahead, Sister Tina.
He said you can't lead in a nation unless you become clear, right?
That's right. That's right.
I thought he said auditors.
You can't lead in the nation unless you become clear. That's almost the exact words. He said clear. Didn't say auditors. He said clear. I'll send that YouTube video out again so we can have it. And I do have a transcript. I'll find it because I transcribed that myself.
He actually said unless or until you become clear.
Thank you. Thank you for the stable datum, unless or until. Okay. So a bearer of witness. I think all of us here could say that we are bearers of witness because why? Those that follow supreme technology will bear witness to the case gain that they have received through the study of the supreme wisdom and the supreme technology. All of us have received gain from using the tech in conjunction with the wisdom, correct?
Absolutely. Sir.
That we might distinguish who follows the messenger. The word distinguish actually comes from the Arabic word alim, which is also Allah's the best knower. He's al-alim. It means to be cognizant, to have knowledge, to have awareness. The word alim also includes all of the sciences. Now, isn't Dianetics the science of the mind?
Yes.
Aren't the 5% supposed to teach the science of everything in life? Does the word everything include Dianetics?
Yes, sir. Is your screen still up?
No, I had someone talking in the background.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, I'm juggling right now.
Go ahead, Black man.
So the science of everything in life, everything would include Dianetics. And the word alim also means world, cosmos, and universe. The union of the supreme wisdom and the supreme tech opens up the universe internally and externally, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we have another short video. Another short video. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Can everyone see the minister?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If
your mind were free to soar, if your spirit were free from the confines of your flesh and its lusts and its demands, if you could become the master of your flesh, then you could become the master of the material universe. But you are running from the real war. You want a war with white people. You want a war with Jews or Palestinians. You want a war with every enemy outside of yourself. But you are coward to tackle the biggest fight you will ever have. And that's the struggle with yourself, to master yourself. For in the mastery of yourself is the mastery of everything.
Wonderful.
The Jihad al-Nafs.
Now, what does it mean by turning back on his heels in Arabic? And how is that connected to the text? I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. I'll probably mess it up. But the root word comes from the word kalaba. I can pronounce that one. And the word kalaba means to turn back, to turn around, to be changeable or fickle. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Fickle.
The word kalaba also means heart, mind, soul, spirit, and the best part. So we're talking about the mind changing, the mind being fickle. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
The word kalaba also means variable. And if you look up the word variable and clear it, you're going to come to the word aberrant. So turning back on his heels means to become aberrant, to become changeable. And how are you going to do it? In successive or consecutive ways. In other words, by a gradient. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Sister Tina, you got your hand up?
Oh, no, sir.
Okay.
I'll put it down.
That's okay. It also means obstacles, difficulty, or to obstruct. So now we have someone who's stuck on the time track, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Go ahead, Sister Ania.
Just real quickly, Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
When the minister made the quote that in order to, when we master ourselves, we master everything. I may have misquoted a couple of words he said there, but the picture that came to my mind was in the Matrix movie, when Neo had got to that point where he had gained mastery of himself and was able to just be still and just wave his hand to control all what was happening around him and to ward off those bullets and everything. So that's, I just wanted to share that real quick.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's a good demo kit. Matrix, my favorite movie of all time.
Yes, sir.
So what's the result of obedience? Those that follow the instruction of using Dianetics as a tool to unlock what we already have will ascend up the tone scale, which will allow new thoughts, new ideas, and new postulates to build a new government and a new world. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Those that turn back on their heels will turn back to their time track and remain in their past pain and suffering. It's quite simple. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said in the Divine Destruction of America that that Allah is going to use grief as a tool during the chastisement. So we know grief is coming. So the grief is like that wildland fire. The fire is coming. But what is auditing? Auditing is fire done under a controlled setting called auditing. And if we can deal with the fire now, then we burn off all the vegetation. So when the real fire comes, there's nothing left to burn.
Right.
And if we understand how to do this, then in the midst of everything burning, we can maintain a calm head and now help other people get through the fire. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah.
Yes,
So
sir.
auditors are mental firefighters.
Yes, sir.
Could the experience of Lot's wife be a metaphor or allegory for being stuck on the time track? She kept looking back, didn't she?
Yes, sir.
Is that what gets us in trouble? We keep looking back at what people did to us. He did this, and she said that. So
Yes,
now
sir.
we become just like Lot's wife. We're stuck. The hard test that produces fruit. You have the word kabara. Surely it was a hard test. It means to become great, to augment, to enhance, or to increase. The purpose of the trial is not to destroy. Allah says in the Holy Quran, He uses the trials to destroy the disbelievers. He uses the trials to purify the believers. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
A fire is purification. It's painful, but it's necessary. So this hard test will produce fruit, which is to become greater in tone, intellect, influence, and cause. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now let's hit closing the gap and then we'll wrap it up. On page 17, excuse me. Yes, 17. He says, the Honorable Mr. Farrakhan says, we war not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places. The high places is your mind. The scriptures say Jesus went up on the mountain to pray and then Satan tempted him.
Come on, man.
Where was Satan? In his mind? Jesus went up, and in his attempt to reach higher levels of awareness of himself, he found a devil, a contrary thought opposition. I heard a great R&B singer say about this climb to the top, on every level, there's another devil, correct?
Yes, sir.
Let's look at these two terms. And I think we can probably wrap it up then. Yeah, we're making good time. What are principalities? What is spiritual wickedness? How are these connected to the mind? Now, this will be for this is going to be for a part 2. I'll do it another time. What are some of the terms used to describe the thoughts that block our ascension? In the Dianetics, you have what's called engrammic commands, correct?
Yes, sir.
What I'm currently trying to do is listing all the different types of engrammic commands in the text and finding them in the Holy Quran. Okay, that's an assignment I've kind of given myself. So let's hit these last ones and we'll wrap it up. Principality is a territory or jurisdiction ruled by a prince, also called an emir, which is called a monarchy. And I want to throw out a thank you to Brother Wahid and Sister Ania for kind of giving me the assignment of studying different governments. So I'm studying governments, the different types of governments and how they relate to the reactive mind and the analytical mind, so I can learn more about the study of governments comes under the title of political science, but I'm looking at it from the perspective of this government within ourselves that takes on the different characteristics of governments. Does that make sense, or is that just babble?
It makes sense.
It makes sense.
When you look at a monarchy can be ruled by a king and also can be ruled by an emir. I think I just saw someone's Sister Zakia. Is that your hand?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to, before we closed out, with Brother Robin, I think that's his name. He's talked about what the sister was saying about trying to undo for her son. One of my favorite movies is Back to the Future, and Doc, invented the time machine, and they went into the future, and Marty, Michael J. Fox, I think that's who it was, had got an almanac and brought it back to regular time or lost it. And so ended up messing up the future. So they had to go back to redo for the future. And so it made made sense when he was talking about what the sister was trying to do was basically correct her past to correct the future. And so in reference to that track, I think it has I think that's I think it's so important that we do, as to why the minister actually said to us, find out what surrounds our birth, so we can understand who we are and what's our purpose. So I think that makes sense. But Back to the Future 1 and 2, it really goes into that, and that was true. Once he corrected the future or the past, it changed the future. That was all.
Okay, praise be to Allah. So I have another movie I got to go back and watch again. Been a long time since I watched that one. But here's the interesting thing about principalities and spiritual wickedness and how it's tied to the word Amir. This is going to be very interesting. So monarchy is a government ruled by an individual, and there's other definitions that show that this monarchy, this king or this ruler, rules based on how he wants to rule. So there's no checks and balances. They rule based on how they want to rule. But the word Amir, which is also spelled E-M-I-R, comes from the root word Amara. Okay, Amara. Remember, we're talking about principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places, which is the mind, correct?
Yes, sir.
But here's what the word Amara means. It means to constantly urging, always demanding. And we have what's called the Nafs Amara, which is mentioned in Self-Improvement Study Guide, in the footnotes for Holy Quran, Surat al-Qiyamah, which is Surah 75. The Nafs Amara means it's the baser self of man that incites one to evil. So here's the principalities. The Nafs Amara. The Nafs Amara would translate to Dianetics as the reactive mind, correct?
Yes,
That's
sir.
the principalities. So basically, when we're aberrated, we have a monarch that has settled on the best part. Could we say that?
Yeah.
Okay. The spiritual wickedness represents the content that's found in the engramic bank, correct?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Brother Robin.
Thank you. I just, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to go back, and the sister just made a statement about Back to the Future, and mistakes shall not exist. I left something kind of unanswered, and I believe that was Sister Tina who asked me that question, as it relates to blame, and relates to accepting responsibility when it's not your fault. I want to just make that in the proper context. When you're dealing with an individual that you know, or maybe you don't know, but I'm not saying you accept responsibility for if you're accused of a crime. No, I'm not saying that. Like a person say, you robbed me. Don't say, yes, I did, but let's work this out later. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, as it relates to one-on-one relationship, emotionally in context, not criminally in context. I just want to say that.
Yes, sir. Thank
Yes, sir.
You welcome.
Yes, sir. Here's the basic elements of the aberrated. My deed must have, no matter how many times I go back and forth to these things, there's always one little thing that seems to slip my attention. But in the Engram Bank, you have people, you have places. And one thing L. Ron Hubbard said is, if you want to see some of the get to the root of some of your aberration, go back to the house where you grew up. That is a source of
wow.
Aberrate. That's from the Philadelphia Doctor course.
Wow.
He has one thing called the theory of condensation, which condensation is when you press things together. As space decreases, aberrations increase. And he says some individuals are aberrated simply because you had a house full of children and you all had to share the same bed.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Wow.
You didn't have your own space. What was done to us, which was flow one, and what was said to us, those are the circuits. Okay, that's the basics of an engram. The people, the places, what was done to us, what was said to us, and that produces the emotional content. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you have the principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places. So now we're talking about the Nafs Amara, and we're talking about the engram bank, or the content of the engram bank. And so whatever our coins are, those coins don't belong to us. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Now, some people might say, who here doesn't know what the coins are? Who doesn't know the coins? It's all right to raise your hand if you don't know.
Sister Peggy raised her hand.
Okay, because I can't see everyone. Okay. Sister Tina, you remember the coins?
Yes, sir. That's an acronym for compulsion, insanity, neurosis, and psychosis.
And what's the O stand for?
Oh, the O is obsession.
Obsession.
Sorry.
So the word coins is compulsions, obsessions, insanity, neuroses, and psychoses. We know psychosis starts with a P, but it looks better when you say coins than instead of saying coin. Coin sounds better. Okay. So what we suffer from belongs to us. I mean, it doesn't belong to us. Go ahead, Sister Sultana.
Oh, so no, I was just raising my hand when you asked who didn't know what coins
Okay.
mean.
Okay, no problem. Let me handle this real quick, and then we'll wrap it right up.
Well, assalamu alaikum. Just one thing while I'm listening, I'm picking up the similarities to what I've experienced in the Sufi path with the Dara, what they call Dara, which is the school of learning with your teacher. You have a sheikh, and they have a school you meet every week, and very similar, the same as, the sheikh will test you. He will sometimes accuse you of doing things to see your reaction, of course. And it's just it's just so beautiful how I've been able to experience both sides of that same training and teaching of the spirit and the soul, and how to clear the soul of the nafs, and understanding that the real battle is the enemies from within and not the physical, the people out in the physical world. And it's just all beautifully just coming together. I've always been, as a child, I always say, oh Allah, help me find all the pieces of the puzzle of life. Yeah, inshallah. Thank you so much for sharing everything.
Thank you, Sister Sultana, for that.
Amen.
I'm gonna do this quick summary. I'm gonna hit the last two questions, show a quick video, and then we're gonna wrap it up so I can get home and get prepared for closing the gap at 8 o'clock. Now, if we understand how to use Dianetic tech as a tool, then can we apply these same tools to dig deeper into what we already have been blessed to receive? What would be the consensus on that?
Yes, sir.
Hey, remember, the tech is a tool.
Yes,
The
sir.
minister didn't give us the tech to become anything else except better Muslims.
That's it.
If our lessons are the fulfillment of all the prophecies, and fulfillment means to put into effect, to develop the full potentials of, to convert into reality, or bring to the final level, then who is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan?
The final level.
The fulfillment, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But then who are we?
The fulfillment.
Exactly.
Slightly aberrated.
Slightly aberrated. That's video.
Because from this point on, every day at the mouth is a class day. We're all in the classroom of God, and we will prepare the study on both sides, the study of the technology and the study of the supreme wisdom. And then once we get to a certain point, I'm turning you loose on this word.
That's it.
Good. All right. Closing questions, and then we're going to wrap it up. Go ahead, Brother Wadud.
Yes, sir. You previously given what the definition is of neurosis versus psychosis. Would you mind repeating that, please?
Oh, yes, sir. Based on what the way L. Ron Hubbard explains it, he says psychosis is when someone is stuck in the past. Neuroses is when someone is stuck in the present.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I did see Sister Peggy. Did you have your hand up, Sister Peggy?
Yes, I did, but when Brother Wadu answered his question, because I was going to ask you what does the S stand for, and it's the psychosis with a P.
Yep, psychosis. Yes, ma'am. Sister Cheryl.
Yes, I was on on mute, but when the minister said, "I'm gonna turn you loose on the world,"
Hallelujah, right? Hallelujah moment.
yes.
All right. Sister Tina.
When Brother Robin had said something earlier, oh God, it left my mind just that fast. When Sister Angela was asking the question about a particular case that just is standing still, and Brother Robin said what he said in regards to ethics, it made me think of, that's an example of flow number 2, what one has done to others.
Yes.
The second flow of aberrations. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. That's right. Sister knows it flows.
Yes, sir. I use them for myself in regards to healing myself, because I need to be able to confront every single one of those flows without emotion, without aberration. So yes, I study that.
Praise be to Allah. Sister Sharon.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Happy Sabbath to everyone.
Islam.
I just wanted to make a comment on what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said in the last video about sending us out into the world once we were prepared. I remember at the Vanguard retreat, Mother Tanetta spoke about what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, and she said that he spoke about it on October 11th. September 11th, I forget the year, but the Vanguard retreat was 9/11 also. And she said that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad would send the women out into the world to teach the other women. So I just wanted to raise that point. And once us as MGT, us in the nation, or as MGT, be able to go out and help the women, we know the nation will rise faster, because the nation cannot rise higher than its women. We know that already. So I just wanted to bear witness to that part. And also, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan reminded us how the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said when he look at us, that he's looking at God, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan does the same thing. He don't settle on the poor part of us. He settled on the best part of us. And he's able to see past our pain and all that we've been through. And he sees the God in us. So he don't hold our faults against us. So I just wanted to raise those 2 points.
Well, thank you. Just praise be to Allah. Sister Angela.
Yes, sir. Going back to what Brother Robin shared, he brought up a thought in me in regards to something that we always hear, but I think he kind of addressed it, manifested it today with the ethics comment that he made. You know, we are taught that Allah created this universe in truth.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a price, whether we see it today or it comes up in the future, for every untruth we do, every sin we commit. So I understand how you wrap that up. And it's just bearing witness to the nature of who we truly are. So some of our aberrations come from our misdeeds and behaviors and, sin that is coming back to us because that's against the nature of who we truly are. So I just wanted to say that. Something.
Salam. Brother Robin, you get the last comment, and then we're going to close it out.
Oh, praise be to Allah. I just want to say I see Brother Eric on here, who's one of my mentors and teacher, and he was a courtroom supervisor to me and my wife and my children. I just want to tell you how much I love and appreciate you, brother, and how valuable you are, man. And we love you, Brother Eric. I just want to say that. Thank you, Sister Angela. And you have such a beautiful spirit and such a beautiful mind. Is all
praises due to Allah.
I mean that you got a minute.
All praises due to Allah.
You're a spiritual physician, ain't no doubt about that. The God be just exploding up out of you, as well as Sister Tina, as well as all of us.
Praise be to Allah.
I just want to say, alhamdulillah, I just want to say one thing that I want us to keep a mind on is remember, the minister is our example, and he's really an example of us in the future. Yeah, he's the perfected man. So where he is, remember, I go to prepare a place for you. That's where I am. Whether that's clear, whether that's OT, or whether that's whatever that means to you, where the minister is above all of that, you ask me, well, ain't no doubt about that.
Right.
But he said, I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am, you may be also. So just keep in mind, the messenger, the minister grew into the messenger. The messenger grew into the master. Remember his lecture, the 4 Jesuses. He said there were 4. And he said 3 were men and 1 was a people. And then he said, there may be a 5th one, but I don't want to get into that. And he was talking about himself. Oh, praise be to Allah. But I just want us to remember, everything we see him doing, we will have the ability to do as well.
Yes,
and in the scriptures in the Bible, what made Jesus's Great Commission known was his students began to display and perform the same acts and miracles that he displayed and performed. So when it says that Muhammad cracked the atom into 10 million parts, it's like, I remember Mr. Rahman said this, and I'll be quiet on this one. And may Allah be pleased with Brother Abdul Rahman Muhammad. I miss the Rock, boy. The Rock used to sit in the mosque in Atlanta, and I would ask him questions about the messenger. He said one day he was in the palace with the messenger. And he said this publicly too. And I'm sure brother Eric remembers it. He said one day the messenger came in the room for coffee. He said he was just smiling. And say he just kept saying this over and over again. I cracked Farrakhan. I cracked Farrakhan. And Minister Rockman was like, dear Holy Apostle, what? He said, he looked at him and said, I cracked Farrakhan. So,
Yes, sir. I bear
so,
witness.
yeah, so I would just say, just remember that where he is, we may be also. And just keep that in mind. Because if you can see it, if you can see yourself being like the minister and displaying that, and you're willing to go through what he went through, then you can have it. But you got to see it first.
Yes,
So just don't make him a star that's unattainable, because he said, man, I'm an ordinary guy. I just did what the messenger said do. And I try to, so I just want us to keep that in mind, because we are more special than we know. We more special than we know. All right.
Praise be
Assalamu
to Allah. Yes, like,
alaikum.
I'm looking at all the clocks on the picture.
I know. All right, family. That is it. I'm grateful and thankful that we all showed up. I pray a lot we got some case game. And let's go ahead and close it out. I guess let's see. Who would like to bring it home for us? Anyone?
I will. Attention prayer.
Hey, sister.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. And indina sirata mustaqim. Surata Latina and amtu alayhim. Gayru makdubi alayhim waladoli. Ameen.
Ameen. 2 quick points. Sister Zakia, did it acceptable? Did we do all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I didn't watch Z-Man yet. I think you said it was Z-Man.
X-Men.
Z-Man, I like it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That's right.
And last but not least, I wanted to wait until everyone was here. Let's give another congratulations to Sister Charlotte for completing her book 1.
Allahu Akbar.
Oh,
Akbar.
Thank you, family.
All right, family. Inshallah, I see you Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Were you saying something, Sister Charlotte?
No, I said thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome, sister. We're all proud of you.
That's right.
All right.
Assalamu alaikum, family.
Have a good night, Brother Lukman. Thank you, sir.
Love you, family. Love y'all.
I love you too.